Oh, we have somebody. Yay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to What's the Buzz? Give it a few seconds while we let people in. We are here. We know we see you on LinkedIn, but we are here in Zoom as well. So, welcome to my monthly chat series that I've been doing for the last couple of years, bringing educational insights, industry trends, tips, and topics to you right here every Tuesday, every month, the second Tuesday of every month at 4 o'clock Eastern for 20 minutes. And I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so I apologize. But anyway, so excited to be here. Happy Veterans Day to all our veterans as well. I know this is a holiday, so I'd like to thank them all for their service and letting some people in still. So just giving it a couple more seconds.
Mhm.
All right. But today we're so excited to have Amy from Aleran here. So you have the two Amy's today. I think that's the first. That's for sure for What's the Buzz. Spell our names differently, but and we're talking all about how manual quoting is slowly killing your profits and deals and what to do about it now. So very excited to have you here, Amy, on What's the Buzz. Welcome.
Well, thanks, Amy. I'm happy to be here.
So we have a bunch of great questions I'm going to be
Mhm.
asking Amy. If you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. So let's take a second and talk about how time is lost in what does I should say, what does the process for quoting and configuration mostly look like today for manufacturers and what are the risks of that process? So let's take it back to that.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good question. The process for what it looks like from our work with manufacturers, it can be pretty diverse. We may see some of the so we serve just a grounding. We serve mid-size B2B manufacturers that have complex products and pricing and sales processes. They have heavy needs for configuration in their orders that are incredibly complex. And so that leads to the pricing and the other pieces that are complex. So this quoting part that you brought up is a key one.
I'm supposed to be looking.
Um, sorry. So it can look variable. So for some organizations on the smaller end of the mid-size, they may have it be pretty flat where they are working directly with the customer and then the sales rep and the engineering team. Maybe there's an application engineer in there who's helping, who has an engineering background, who knows how to use the engineering configuration and CPQ tools. And in that process, depending on their structure, can work. And then as you get a little bit larger, or even sometimes at that size, what we see a lot is it's really hard, because what will happen is someone will say call or email or come to the website and they want a quote, and then it starts the process of the sales rep contacting them, getting details. In some cases, with folks we've talked with, and this is true at one recent event, I met a gentleman. His company, the sales reps are still using what they call job sheets from 20 years ago, where the sales reps are completing essentially like a Word document. And to shades of completion, much to the engineering team's chagrin. So it's really variable. And then sometimes you might also still have an application engineer or sales engineer involved who has some details, and they're working across different systems that may or may not be connected to the ERP. So you may have someone or several different spreadsheets that are kind of a band-aid or filling in some gaps. And then what that may create is you may have different pricing in each of those spreadsheets because they're manually updated and maintained. And then what it ultimately leads to, besides, just a lengthened time for being able to get from that quote to the order and then ultimately the closed win, is, the risk of inaccuracy. We did a study this fall in our built to sell report, and we surveyed 200 US mid-sized B2B manufacturers, and 86% of them said that they have lost a deal because of their slow manual quoting process, and that's costing them on average 5% in revenue leakage a year. So it's
Wow.
it's 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 significant.
86 is a big number.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people. Okay, so for the connecting the quotes directly to say an ERP, an accurate how does that work? How does the connecting it directly to live ERP, the data change, how does that change the game in accuracy, visibility, and customer experience? Can you dive into a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's such a great question too. So for manufacturers, as you know, that ERP is kind of the heartbeat of their business. We like to say their ERP runs their operations and Aleran Connected Commerce runs their revenue. And so that integration is really incredibly critical because that ERP contains the products, the pricing, the orders. It's connected oftentimes to the bill of materials, which the engineering team is having access to for being able to do quoting. And that information is feeding into the ERP. So for Aleron to be ERP connected and to be able to have a dynamic flow of data, so as quoting is coming in, and using our AI, we're able to pull from and be trained on data that's in the ERP and in the BOM, conversely, that's connected, to help make those quotes more accurate and faster. And then feeding that data back and forth. So as an order is completed, it automatically goes into the systems as configured, including the ERP, and then determining on the workflows that are set up. So there's no disconnection, which
Hmm.
is what we'll typically see. Getting back to those good old spreadsheets.
Yes.
There's no like downloading a spreadsheet, then uploading it to your ERP. No, no, no. It's all synced. There's the dynamic flows. And then that AI is really a game changer too in being able to increase efficiency.
It's just nice when everything talks to each other.
Yes.
Okay. You talked a little bit, or you mentioned revenue leakage a little bit in the first question, and I'm sure that gets a lot of attention. So what does it actually look like in real terms for a manufacturer, and how does automation stop it at the source?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of different scenarios. So I live in Minnesota. Aleran is technically based there, although we have team members that are based all across the US. I recently went to a state of manufacturing event in Minnesota. And what was really interesting there is 58% of manufacturers in the state said that acquiring new customers and growth is their number one priority. So as we look at that as like a first example, so you have a new customer who maybe because of inflation or cost pressures, they're looking for a new manufacturer for maybe for parts for their machinery or other product, and so they are looking for that. So you want to make sure that you're found. And what can happen in that revenue leakage piece is that pricing logic may not be standardized. So getting back to those spreadsheets, you may have someone who's maintained that list and they're manually
Mm.
updating things as they go along. And maybe it's off. Again, getting to that 5% on average, even up to 15% annual revenue leakage. The other piece where it can happen is, like, for example, an existing customer. Um, maybe they're used to having a certain discount and maybe sales just goes ahead and applies it without some of the other review, or maybe in some cases, the review has to go through senior leadership to get signed off on. That can create delays, but in either case, where we can really help as well, besides standardizing the pricing and logic through and through, is with that discount process. If there is one requested during the workflow or want to include that in the discussion, that's a really fast, seamless process where that alert can come up, it can be addressed, and it can keep moving. It doesn't have to stall out at that point. Um, so it really makes sure that manufacturers are connecting at each stage and capturing that revenue without leaving that on the table from making a miss, inadvertently on any of their pricing.
Okay. So with approvals often slowing everything down, how does Aleron's connected commerce standardize that process without adding complexity for sales or management or even the customer?
Yeah, that's another great question. So how we work then is that's where the ERP connection comes into play. That is so incredibly key in that connection with sales, because we are designed around a pragmatic approach. Like there is that sales relationship and that human connection, especially in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
is so important. I mean, this is the price
That's what
tags
AI
on
can't
these
replace,
pieces.
right?
It's not like a t-shirt or a
Yeah.
pair of shoes, right? If something needs to be reworked or it's wrong. So have to have a lot of trust and feeling of knowledge about what the needs are. So what this does then is with that integration with the ERP, and then also we can set up those workflows so that way there's, through that review process, that it can be automated, tasks can be created, and all of those different pieces. So the right sales or ops leader is informed and engaged at different steps versus having to send emails back and forth or get an email with one attachment, then call and then reference. Well, actually, it was two attachments ago that I was referring to, which happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Again, getting back to the disconnected systems.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one of my favorites. So, for manufacturers who think they're too complex to automate, what does a realistic transition to connected quoting and selling look like from setup to seeing ROI?
So, it's we sometimes hear from folks that point of, we're too complex. It's not going to work for us, or gosh, it feels really big. We went through an ERP implementation, and I don't know if our team can take this on. Um, and in those cases, like we love hearing that, because it's really easy and it's honest to be able to say implementing Aleran doesn't have to be a big, nor is it a big, digital transformation project or program. We connect really seamlessly with your ERP, as I mentioned, and your CRM and your other systems. And we could be live in as fast as 30 days, and even showing ROI in 90 days. So we're really built around speed, ease of use, minimal IT, and that sales and marketing can use every day, but with the peace of mind, with the system connection. So that way it takes minimal time, expense, and you can start showing that value quickly, which we all know is really important, because some of these different projects and folks know from ERP implementations, they're complex. They can take a year, right? I've
Mm-hmm.
met some that have taken 2 years. And so that's why with our design at Aleran, we are so connected to the ERP and the other systems and really making it easy so it can be stood up in weeks.
That's great. Okay, could you share a quick example or a success story where a manufacturer replaced those manual quoting processes and saw measurable results and time saved or faster deal cycles?
Yeah, yeah. So a couple of them. So one, we had started working with, so they're a fourth generation manufacturer in my home state of Wisconsin. So I'm incredibly proud and always happy when I meet with them. They have an incredibly complex and diverse set of products, high volume set of products. And they have a large number of customers with the high volume of orders. And they care about their customers deeply. They also wanted to, as they saw some shifts in opportunities for them in the market in their segments, to be able to focus. And so, what they had looked at, and then also with demographic changes and buyer preferences, is let's help our customers who have the high volume of orders that want to reorder and self service be able to do that. So our sales folks can really focus in on this growing segment that is starting to emerge as a larger piece of our revenue. And so what they've been able to see is not only a 20%, time savings each week, in the time that they're spending processing orders and on quotes, but they're also turning around configurable quotes up to 50% faster. And we've seen with some of our customers as much of a 26% average annual sales lift in year one. And then with a couple other stats, we have another customer too who had implemented us and with our AI feature and being able to suggest products proactively with our AI sales assistant that can also look into the order history and recommend parts and other products. They're seeing an 18% average order increase. And all of that starts to add up, especially
Mhm.
when you do have a high volume of products. And even if you don't, that offers some significant opportunity to expand your scope to then increase the volume.
That's some amazing stats.
Mhm.
Okay. What's next for connected commerce and quoting automation and manufacturing, and how do you see AI or the ERP advancements shaping the space over the next year?
Mhm. Well, I'm just always so impressed with our product team, both their creativity, their technical acumen, and their knowledge of the space and genuine commitment to service. A lot of where we're going and what's already in play is around AI. But AI, not for AI's sake, because I think sometimes people see it and it's so much and it feels big and it starts to kind of get a little intimidating. So, what I really appreciate is it's a very pragmatic approach to AI. It's how can we help our customers sell more faster and can we help their buyers buy and get quotes faster. So, to that end, as we've rolled out some new AI features this year, a lot of what we're going to be leaning into and have already is around that AI assisted selling or AI guided selling that we call it. I had mentioned, excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold too. It's just is the season.
It
So,
is.
as I mentioned, we have that AI sales assistant who can recommend products and parts and answer questions and is trained on your data, including from the ERP. And that can help get those quotes to closure and working through sales faster. And that's where we see a lot of opportunity is with that AI sales assistant and agents who can really understand, be trained on your data, and augment your team members. So it's not about replacing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's just giving them the intelligence and the data that they need so they can make better decisions and more connected decisions, whether that's being able to identify, opportunities among certain segments or accounts for certain products or pricing or promotions. Maybe it's upselling or cross-selling, especially with one customer we have. They've grown a lot through acquisition, so they have multiple subsidiaries and they have multiple systems. And so it makes it really hard then if company A wants to cross-sell or upsell on company B's products that this customer would be a great fit for. It's a really onerous process. So by having all of this connected and leaning into AI, it makes it a lot easier and possible.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay. So many manufacturers see the value in automation, but maybe they struggle with adoption. So
Mhm.
how do you get their teams, especially sales and engineering, so key to the configuration quoting process to trust and embrace AI in their daily workflow?
Oh gosh, that is a good one. We actually, as part of that built to sell survey that I mentioned in the report, we've done two volumes of it so far. The second one was around AI and adoption. And interestingly enough, we found in the data 4 out of 10 had reported that they've already been investing in and prioritizing AI sales agents. And that of those that have invested in AI and digital commerce, 90% reported that the gains have been significant. So we're starting to see a shift from I'm going to experiment with it and see how to use Copilot, for example, or using ChatGPT to organizations starting to get more comfortable and I would say too, like sophisticated about how they're thinking about it, about what it means for their compliance, about what it means for agent to agent interactions, communications, what it means for security. So connecting these dots across and then finding really tangible ways where AI can be used now quickly and easily, and then build versus trying to make it really big to start. And then it kind of gets a little, again, intimidating or stuck. So I think, in that piece, we're starting to see a lot have moved from that starting like to pilot, starting small, and starting to move beyond that, especially as they've started to kind of think through their AI strategy as a whole across the business, including in production.
All right, we're already down to our last question. So, what does successful change management look like when modernizing quoting and sales? And where do most manufacturers stumble and how can they avoid it?
Mhm. I was just on a webinar earlier today, and it was such a good point. And it reminded me of a stat I had read about a year and a half ago. I think it was from Digital Commerce 360. That was, I think it was like 80%, or maybe it was 78. It's a high percentage, about three-fourths of e-commerce implementations fail, not because of the technology, not because of the people, but because of lack of stakeholder alignment. And what I mean by that is sometimes, and we've all been there and been in this place. A few examples too is we may see we're working with a sales and marketing team who is incredibly eager to be able to have a portal for customers to go into and to get personalized pricing, see their products, or they may really be attracted to that e-commerce component where
Mhm.
they can have all of their products optimized for SEO and for AI search and much more. And that click to cart experience that connects across their multi channel marketing and sales. Where we've seen that sometimes be challenged is when IT comes in, they have a different set of requirements, understandably. Finance may have operations. And so, if those requirements and stakeholders aren't all at the table and they aren't clearly defined from the start, that can create a lot of problems really fast. So I would really encourage, and we do with anyone that we work with, of helping and being really clear up front of what are those core requirements, not just for you and your team, but for your stakeholders. And then let's be really clear too on who those stakeholders are and how we can best engage at the start, because it may be you need another offering, or maybe you need to take another approach. So to best use that time, because that time is so precious, judiciously want to make sure that we have that from the start. And I think ultimately that helps with change management, because you've built champions then who've been there from the beginning, and can help kind of carry the torch, so to speak.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for being on What's the Buzz monthly chat series. Very love sharing your knowledge and stats and insights and manufacturers and helping with quoting and deals. So thank you so much for being here, everyone. For this monthly chat, we have one more to go this year. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and thank you so much, Amy. Bye,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you, Amy. Thanks, everyone.